Welcome to another video. In this video, we are going to talk about Veeam V13 and how to set up a sober repository with your performance, capacity, and archive tiering. So let's start and have a look at this new interface and what the process is to configure a sober or a scale out backup repository with V13. So as you can see, I've got two different dashboards here, two interfaces. We have the thick client that is available. It has one-to-one parity with the old 12 and older versions. And in this version, you can see a nice newer flat look with it. But then also behind it, I have the web UI, which is new in the new Veeam V13 version. So in this web UI at this current stage, as this is still in beta at this point in time, not all features are here. So under add repository, we can't see how to add any S3 compatible storage. So in order to do that, we will need to use the thick client. This is the thick client here, and it's as easy as the original versions prior to this. However, if we go into backup infrastructure, we can come here into the backup repositories, and here we can start setting up and adding our three storage devices that we're going to use for the sober. Now, generally, you would be using for the capacity and the archive tier something like Azure blob storage or AWS or even Wasabi or another cloud provider that will give you that storage behind for that offsite tiering. But in this case, I've just set up three storage nodes and have created three different buckets across those nodes for my storage for S3. I've done that here on object first. So this is their UI. And what you'll see is that I have a performance tier. I have a capacity bucket and an archive bucket as well. So these are the ones that we will go ahead and attach and add into our Veeam infrastructure. So if we head back to the Veeam thick client, we can have a look under here under the backup repositories. You can easily just right click on the backup repositories itself, or even go up to the top here and go add repository. Now, if I click on add repository, you get a whole list of the different types of repositories that you can add. Now, in this case, we are doing object storage. That's what I've got available to me. So that's what we will use. However, you can go through and do direct attached storage, network attached storage, and the others for your performance tier. And then for your archive tier, you'd be going into object storage, and you'd be able to either set up a hyperscaler such as your Amazon S3 or your Microsoft Azure blob storage or GCP storage. Plus, there are additional providers that you can use as well. So you can take a look at those such as Wasabi and 1111 systems. And also your Veeam Data Cloud Vault, which is also an option. However, for this particular, being on-prem, we will choose S3 compatible. So in here, I will go ahead and I will select S3 compatible as well. We'll just ignore the with archiving for this point in time. Now I'll just go ahead and call this same as my bucket. So we're going to go for the V13 performance tier. Go ahead and add. We'll add in our service points and we'll just add that all in as needed. Now my performance is on 3, so we'll just add that one. We can just leave the region the same, and credentials would be your S3 access key that you've created, and you can go through and add that in here and add your access key and your secret key. So once your credentials are added, you can just leave it as direct mode. It all depends as well how you are connecting to your storage, which is your best option. Now, if we move ahead and go next, it should go through and find that storage for us. And we should be able to see the bucket once we accept the certificate, while I'm using self-signed here at the moment. So let's go ahead and choose your bucket. We should be able to see that V13 performance as an option. And so we can just select that one. Now we can create a folder for what we are going to store there. So V13, we go new folder and just call it, for this case, we will just call it performance. And just go ahead and save that one. And then there are additional settings. Now, in this case, I will be wiping this after, so I won't select immutability, but immutability is available for you. Just need to make sure that you have your versioning or object block enabled on your backend storage, so on your S3 bucket. So let's go ahead and go next. Now, I'm just going to leave the mount server. I will need to enable immutability, but that's okay. We'll just set the retention to 1 day. There, it's easy as that. So let's go ahead next and select mount server. We don't need a Windows mount server, as this is all Linux up for now for what we are doing. You can leave your helper appliance as needed. If you have specific requirements, you can go ahead and set those up. Now, if we go ahead and go next, we'll just review our configuration. Everything is already there. So we just go apply and finish. We can now see that performance tier has performance bucket has now been created. We can now go ahead and create the others. I'm just going to skip ahead here and get those created the same way that we did the performance, and then we'll go ahead and do our sober. Here I have the performance capacity tiers created. I'm unable to create a archive tier as it would require the API, archive APIs available on the back end, which isn't due to the storage backend not supporting those APIs. So what we will do is still go ahead and create this sober. We can still go through all the steps, and it will just be the archive tier that won't be configured. However, that is that works off your GFS settings that you have set within your job during that process. So you can just use it once you create and go through that process. Then the archive will work within those parameters that you set there. So for this demo though, we will just be able to go through and use the performance capacity tier and the setup for that with the scale out repositories. To create your scale out repositories, head over to scale out repositories, and you can either right click in the blank space, you can right click on scale out repositories over here, or add scale out repository up the top here. Now this will open up the new scale out repository wizard, and we can just go here and create, give it a name, and we'll just call it the scale out backup repository, and we will just go next. Now, your performance tier, this is your local tier. You can add multiple repositories in this area. We've only just got the one configured at the moment, so we will just attach the V13 performance. Now, here you can use multiple repository backends, which means that your data will be able to move between. If you need to create more storage on one or the other, or be able to get the ref link, so the fast clone functionalities, when a incremental is created on a different repository, you can then go ahead and do balance for moving all that data around to get them back into the right locations and use that fast cloning method. However, the other benefits is that you are extending your storage as well as performance within multiple repositories of where your backups are going. And you'd be also, if we add this one, then you'd be also under here in your advanced settings, be able to set whether or not you want a full backup. So if if a repository goes offline, you would then be able to create a new full backup on one of the other repositories. The caveat of that being that any incrementals that are referencing the original full backup that is sitting on the other repository would not be able to be accessed, as the chain would be broken. But this is why the new full would be created at the next backup cycle while the other repository is offline. Now we don't need that, so I'm just going to skip. However, we can move ahead now that we can see the performance tier is configured. So then our capacity tier is our next option. So we just go in here, we can go extend, scale out, backup repository capacity with object storage. Now, generally, this would be what you'd be setting as, say, your cool tier in Azure Blob, or it might be on your S3 with Amazon. So you can go in here and just go, we select that and go choose, and we can pick our capacity tier. And so we've just added that. Now you've got a couple of options here. So you've got your copy of backups. So once your backup is created, you can have it copied straight away to your capacity tier. This will give you the immediate redundancy or second copy off-site. So as soon as that backup is created, you've got that other copy sitting or being uploaded at that point in time to the cloud. So then it's separated from your environment. You also have the move option. Now, the move option you can use to move those backups at a certain time. So that will move them off your performance tier, thus creating just a single copy up in the cloud. You can also do your copy and move together if you need to. There are various scenarios that you might want that for. So I suggest having a read up of that within the Veeam KB articles and going from there. You can also set it offload window time, so when you want your uploads to occur of that data. That's really good if you're on metered internet or if you're using a connection that's shared with rest of production, so you can limit the window. So you might want it to start at the end of business days before backups start, or you might want it to start after the backup window is completed. So you just select within that time. So let's move ahead. And always remember to encrypt your data. So put in a password and make sure you store that in your password vault, ready to utilize if you need to ever decrypt those backups. But in this case, being a lab, we'll just skip ahead. So once that's checked my capacity tier for any existing backup files, you can set your archive tier. Now this one is where you can archive your GFS full backups to your object storage, and you can set which ones you'd like to move. Now this is moving from the capacity tier. So if they are sitting within there for 90 days, that's when the archive of those GFS will get moved across. And then you can set different parameters there as well. So store your archive backups standalone fulls, or archive backups only when their remain retention time is above minimum storage period. So there are a couple options there. You can see what your minimum storage duration selected repository. Now, a couple of those will be based on your time that Azure or Amazon allows you for early exit of data. So if you've got, I believe, cool tier is 180 days, and if you move it before, then you get charged extra. So just keep in mind and make sure you're reading up on the requirements there for your blob or S3 storage. It's really important so you don't get charged more than you would like. So let's go ahead and we'll just untick that one. We'll go ahead and apply. We will select finish and move on to creating the backup job to then utilize. So the creation of the backup job is the same process as you would do with any other backup job. However, we will just quickly go through that and set that job up. Okay, we go over to our home. We can actually, if we head back to backup infrastructure, we can see our server is created here. And then we can go through any of the settings that we need to. If we need to go into properties, we can have a look again at our performance capacity and archive tiers. So later on, if we want to add an archive tier, we can always add that in there. So if we go back to home and we can go and create a new job, let's just create a normal virtual machine backup. Let's just give it a test sober. And go ahead and add the virtual machine. So we'll just add a small one, and we should see go through this process. We'll just add this one next. Give it a retention policy. We'll just give it a 1-day retention policy just for this demo. Select your backup repository, in this case the SOBA. Now you can go ahead and create your GFS settings here for your archiving as well, which is we would need a much longer retention period. However, with our dailies, we can push into weeklies, monthlies, and fulls that we want to set and make sure we set our configuration there. We'll just go ahead and cancel that for now. We don't need to do a secondary in this case, as that will be all handled within the SOBA itself. So that avoids having this extra secondary copy. Now you can go ahead and use another secondary copy if you want your capacity tier be in the cloud, but you also want to have another copy sitting in, say, another data center within your infrastructure. You could also set that. This would just be another repository that you have set up for that purpose. Your advanced properties are all the same. We can just leave them for now. This just includes your integrations, your vSphere integrations as well, VMware tools, quiescing, if needed, maintenance windows. Now let's move on. Guest processing. This is an AD, but we will just leave that for the moment for the purposes of this demo, and we don't need to set a schedule. So once we're done, let's just finish and make sure that's created. We can see that's created. We can see that the target is V13. So let's go ahead and click start. Now we should see this on the object first storage. We should be able to see that it will go up as the performance tier receives the job. So let's just watch for what is happening. If we start taking a look at the actions that are being performed during the backup, we can see that there are multiple steps that are taking place. We see that the performance scale out repository extent is being initialized and detected. Then the proxy and the gateway is attaching itself to the performance tier. Then we move on. We can see that there are the standard processes of getting VMware info, resetting CPT, but then we can also see the S3 protocol extension and confirming that that's the destination server and its address, and that storage is initialized. From here, we will move into the backup process where we can see that the data is moving across and taking a backup from that snapshot. So we will come back after the backup job is completed and see what has occurred. If we take a look at our backend storage on the object first storage, we can see that there is on the performance tier that the data is being written. And at the moment there is 1.9 gig of backup data, which is targeting our third node here. So we're able to see that sort of data that's being processed from the backup itself. While our snapshot now removes, let's take a look at the backend storage. here we can see that there is now 10 gig of data that's been applied to the performance tier. So what we should see is once the job has completed, the storage on the capacity tier will start to be utilized as the copy tiering starts. So if we go back, we can see we'll just wait for the snapshot to remove, and then we will be able to continue on. Now that the job has completed, we can just head over to the left here and go to the backups and select object storage. Here we will be able to see the full that we have taken. We should show you the disk, and from here, if you needed to, you can go ahead and do a restore or run an instant recovery as needed per if you're in a recovery situation. Now we should be able to see a job start running for the SOBA. If we don't see it run, what we can do is just head over to the backup infrastructure and select our SOBA. From here, if you don't see clicking control, you can go ahead and right click after holding control and click run tiering job now. We'll just double check to see if that is running at this stage. And it is not showing that it is running. So let's go ahead and start that. So let's right click and go run tiering job. Now, when we run that, you will now be able to see it under the home. But from here, we'll be able to see it run. So if we go ahead and watch, we can see that there's 0 backups at the moment. That's okay. Let's just see why that is occurring. So if we just close that down and have a look at our configuration, go properties, let's go performance capacity tier. We didn't tick the copy at the time. So now let's go ahead, click finish. We can start that straight away. So we just want to say all as it's only one. So we'll just let this save the configuration and apply it. And then that should kick off the copy of the SOBA from the performance to capacity tier. So once that is completed, we should be able to head over to home and see the progress. Okay, straight away we can see that the offload has opened up to show us the progress, and we should be able to go from there and watch the backup run. Okay, so now this is running. We go, yep, we can click OK here, and if we go back over the home, we should now be able to see that that is running, particularly in the last 24 hours. So we just open up and have a look here. And we can see that progress from this screen as well. So under here, we can see that the copy job is starting. There are a number of actions that have taken place. And we can start to see the data get processed once all the checks and balances have been done. As we start to see the data being processed and transferred, we can head back over to our object first storage, and we can see that the data is starting to be added onto that capacity tier bucket. It will take a little bit to update, and then we can see that 1 gig has been transferred. So this is processing as it should. And if we go back to our offload screen here, we can see how much data is moving with it. So we will wait till this finishes, and then we should be able to see the data that's up in the capacity tier. Now that the copy is finalizing, we can take another look over on the object first backend storage, and we can see that the performance tier now equals the same as the capacity tier. We can see that there is 10.2 gigabytes of data in the backup data that has been generated. So that copy has taken across all of that data, and we can see that that is now a success. Back over here. So what we can do now is go have a look. Originally we had the object storage, which is showing what is sitting on the performance tier on your local repository. And then we've got the capacity tier that now shows up as well. And we can see that that same data is available from up in the cloud. But in this case, our local capacity tier. From here, you can also run your instant recoveries. You can download the data and export it, bring it down. You can also check the chain and have a look at that chain with more information. Same with if any malware has been applied to it. So that is how we can create in V13 a SOBA using object first in the backend and having a performance capacity tier. Now, if we head over, we can take another look over on the new V13 web UI, and in this UI, we will be able to, when we log in, we will be able to have a look and see what shows up. Under repositories here, we will be able to see both the capacity and the performance tiers as standard repositories. As mentioned before, you can't actually create the S3 backed storage from within the web UI. However, once you create it, you can start to manage from here and be able to remove those repositories at that point in time. We can also go over here to the scale repositories and view. We can add our scale repository, we can edit, and we can remove. So we can just go edit, and you get the same settings here as you do in the thick client. You are able to set your data locality here while we're editing. So whether or not you want to keep your backups on the same repository and just move to the next available as space becomes an issue, or if you want to split your storage across all your backups across all of the repositories for more performance. So those options are there available. So if we just click out of there, we can then just go over and have a look at jobs or over at backups. We can see here our backups that we have created already and view them, and we can do a couple of options here with doing restore or instant recovery as well. So that is the extent at the moment of what you can see in the web UI. However, all of that functionality is still within the thick client here, which you would be used to from previous versions from 12.3 and earlier. So with that, that is how we create a S3 repository and add it into a SOBA within the V13 GUI. So thank you for staying with me throughout this, and hope that was informative. Thank you.